Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And this one is another special one because it's a firearm from one of my favorite firearms companies in the world, B&T. Today we're going to be taking a look at the TP9 Pistol. Yes, as I am filming this, we live in a post-ATF pistol brace world, and this gun was lent to the channel, so it cannot have a pistol stabilizing brace on it, and it is not an SBR. So I will be reviewing this as a pistol, so it does not have a vertical foregrip or a brace or a stock or any of that. So I'm going to be shooting this with a single point sling, kind of like the old HK MP5K style, and that may or may not affect how I feel about this gun. Now, this is a gun that many people have asked me in the past about because they know I love B&T. They know and probably have found my channel through my B&T videos. I'm kind of like the B&T guy to some people. I even know Carl Brugger, the founder of the company, personally, and I have a great working relationship with a few people that work at that company. So I've always loved their products. But this is one that I've always kind of avoided. I've honestly never really liked. I never liked the aesthetics of it. There's a few features about this gun, which I'll talk about, that I don't like. And when I have handled these in the past, and as I handle it here on the table now, it just doesn't feel quality. This thing is a really big polymer gun. I've always kind of felt this was the Kel-Tec of B&T. It's just different. It doesn't have that same quality in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad gun in any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying that when you hold it, and of course perception is reality, it's a big hunk of plastic. It doesn't feel as solid as the other guns that they offer. But I know a lot of people absolutely love this firearm. So I can't wait to talk about the things I discovered about this gun when I took it to the range. But before I talk about the things that I like and don't like, as always, I want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this amazing pistol. His name is D, and you guys have heard me talk about him in the past. He has an amazing gun collection, and I cannot thank him enough for lending guns like this to the channel for me to review. So thank you so much, D. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters because through their monthly donation and support, they keep the lights on. I could not do this without them. So thank you so much, Patreons. And of course, they get to see all of these videos early. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor for all of these range reports, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And as I told you, he is my primary sponsor. He helps provide all of the ammunition for these range reports, and he really supports Second Amendment content creators like myself. And I'm going to ask you guys to go over there and support his business. Mark is one of the best firearms grips craftsmen in the world. His company, Brownworks, makes custom, one-of-a-kind grips made to order. Anything you can imagine that you could possibly want for your heirloom quality firearm, for your barbecue gun, even down to your carry gun and any pistol that takes wood panel grips. He has multiple textures, multiple colors. He uses exotic woods in his construction. He can even do laminate woods. He offers so much. And as I said, every grip is made to order. He has amazing customer service, and he makes sure that you get the grip that you want that is perfectly fit to your firearm. So I'm going to put a link in the comment section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. And I'm going to ask you guys to go over there, check out his website, see what he has to offer. And I always tell you guys, when you do check out his website, understand he is more busy making custom grips for his customers than he really is updating his website. So if you don't find what you're looking for, make sure to contact Mark and tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so let's talk about what this gun is. Now, B&T really did not design this gun. It is really more of a modernization and a copy of the old Steyr TMP pistol. And that came from the 80s. Now, Carl Brugger is a huge fan of guns from the 80s. In fact, many of the guns that his company makes are really inspired or borrow inspiration from guns of the 80s. Now, being a child of the 80s and watching action movies like the ones of Chuck Norris, You gotta love those guns. There's just something cool about them. They really encapsulate what the 80s decade was, especially in the culture of firearms. So having these modernization versions of these are really, really cool. Now, a few of the things that they did add was a rail on the top, but this gun also takes a few proprietary accessories. You'll notice this big muzzle device on the front, and that is for attaching the B&T suppressor. You also have a big round hole in the bottom of this front of the firearm, and this is for their vertical foregrip, of course, if you SBR it. But you could also fill out a form and make it an AOW and just have that vertical foregrip with no stock, but I would much rather have the stock. And of course, it takes one of their proprietary stocks as well. So if you wanted to upgrade this, you got to buy a bunch of B&T accessories. That can be good or bad in the eyes of some people, depending on those accessories availability. This is also the civilian version of the gun that B&T calls the MP9. So this is just semi-automatic. There are full automatic versions of this, and I believe they are mainly designed for law enforcement and special protective details, because this gun is definitely smaller than many of the other sub guns that they make. So this is more of a PDW, something designed for concealability. So if you have like a Secret Service agent wearing a big coat, they can probably conceal carry this depending on the holster and of course what they are wearing. So that's what this is designed for, a very powerful submachine gun that can be concealed for VIP security details. And I think that's kind of the philosophy of use of this particular gun. But now let's get into the things that I like and don't like. And this is really going to surprise you that the things I like about this gun are really kind of few and far between. But I always like to start with the positive first. The first thing I'm going to like is the controls. The controls are kind of natural. You do have essentially what would be a slide stop up here. You have your safety selector switch in the side, which is really easy to get to. And you do have a magazine release button kind of in the typical place that you would find on a pistol. And most of the controls are ambidextrous. And I also really like the fact, and I've already talked about it, this is a modernization of a gun from the 1980s. So I really like it when companies take older designs and make them more relevant for today. And that's what B&T does and what I think they really excel at. And that's about all that I really like about this gun as it sits. So if I had to say anything else, maybe it's the magazine compatibility, but B&T uses these magazines with pretty much every gun that they make. And this one, of course, is chambered in 9mm. Some people don't like these magazines because they're all polymer. But to be very honest with you, I have never had an issue with them. I've dropped them, I've ran them for years, they've gotten hot. Some people claim they break and crack, but none of the magazines I have ever shot from B&T have ever had an issue. But if you do have other B&T guns, that magazine compatibility really is nice because you only have to have one type of magazine across an entire platform of guns from that company. But now let's talk about the things that I don't like. And this is where the list is going to get kind of long, and some people might even be a little bit disappointed with me, but I hope you listen to me fully all the way to the end, because I do my best to try to explain why I don't like the things that I don't like. The first thing I don't like is that it is one big hunk of plastic. Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of that. You know, other guns that B&T has borrowed inspiration from, I think, is the HK UMP. So here's an HK UMP, and this also is a huge big hunk of plastic. A lot of people feel that even though this is supposed to be the spiritual successor to the MP5, it just doesn't live up to the MP5. You hold it, it kind of feels like a toy. It's just so much plastic. But what did B&T do? Well, they designed a gun like the APC, or the Advanced Police Carbine. And this upper receiver is made from aluminum. And just holding this gun, you realize this thing is way more quality than the UMP. It just feels like a much more sturdy platform. It's not that much heavier, but it definitely feels a lot better. And you realize that they spent a lot of time in the machining and the craftsmanship and the design of this gun. Even though it's just direct blowback like the UMP, it just feels so much better. It's like they took the UMP and just made an amazing firearm out of it. So I was kind of hoping that they were going to do the same thing with this gun. However, it still just is a big piece of plastic. And with the other B&Ts that I own, the polymer always feels dense. It feels high quality. This gun, I don't know, it just sounds and feels cheap. I'm not saying the polymer is any different. Maybe it just has to do with the design. It just doesn't feel like a substantial gun to me. It feels like a toy. And why I sometimes say this is kind of like the Kel-Tec of B&Ts. And I know they're probably trying to copy the Steyr, and probably you don't want this gun to be made out of aluminum, but I don't know. It just doesn't have that right feel to me, and that's something that I don't like and one of the big detractions away from it. The next thing I don't like is something both aesthetically and ergonomical about it that I don't like, and that is the magazine feeds through the pistol grip. Now, some people may like that because it loads just like a standard pistol, but for me, if you're going to have a gun, especially if it's going to have a stock, I like to have the grip angled back a little bit, kind of like an AR-15. But because the magazines are vertical, the grip also has to be vertical, and I don't find that to be a very naturally shooting firearm. Another gun that has this that I do not like is the Uzi. Yeah, that's the big thing about the Uzi that I don't like. This is a very historical firearm, very interesting mechanical firearm. However, it has that big vertical grip. It's also why if I ever got into machine guns, I know a lot of people get into them with the MAC-10 and the MAC-11, but they also have that vertical grip where the magazine is fed through it. And to me, it's just not a naturally ergonomic gun to handle and to shoot. It just doesn't feel that good. So I really like the B&T guns where the magazines feed from somewhere else besides the pistol grip. I'm also not a big fan that this gun takes a bunch of proprietary accessories. Now, as a B&T collector, I would of course buy all of the B&T accessories. However, I don't like this big muzzle device in the front, which forces you to only buy a B&T suppressor. If you have another suppressor, and of course here in the United States, you gotta wait 10 months, 12 months to get another can, and so it'd be nice to have a standard direct thread or a 3-lug system on the front that you can run another suppressor that you may have. Now, I know this is a lot truer to the form of the original Steyr. I think honestly, it's kind of ugly, and it makes it a little bit impractical because now you gotta buy just the B&T can. But as I said, I understand why they do it, but from an aesthetic standpoint, and I also think from a lot of people that are spending a lot of money on a high-end gun, to buy the associated can with it could be kind of an issue, and they may not like it because after all, you may have a nicer 9mm can that you can't run on this. You can only run the B&T one. And I'm sure it's a great can, but a lot of times people are gonna want options. They're gonna wanna be able to customize their guns. Another thing about this gun that I don't like from just handling it here on the workbench is the trigger. Yeah, the trigger in this thing absolutely sucks in my opinion. It is heavy, it is really mushy. I don't have a trigger gauge. It's something that I definitely should invest in, but I would say that is going to be about a 9 to 10 pound trigger. You don't really feel the wall. It breaks really weird, and on the reset, it's kind of long and gritty. I just don't like that, and I don't think this is going to be a great trigger at the range, especially if you don't have the ability to stabilize it on your shoulder with a stock or a brace. Then we gotta start talking about the charging handle. Now the charging handle is here in the back of the receiver. It's kind of like an AR-15, but also this thing is a big piece of plastic, and take a look at this. It's really flimsy. Now I don't think it's gonna break. It just doesn't feel like quality to me. So what I ended up doing at the range is I would simply charge the weapon this way, and then after the last round in the magazine, the slide or the bolt is locked open, and I would drop the bolt using this bolt catch right here, and I tried to avoid using this charging handle. I didn't find it to be very ergonomic, and it does kind of feel cheap and flimsy. I think they could have done a better job with that and make that out of aluminum. I'm not really sure why they didn't do that. So as I said, I know this video is probably surprising a lot of people because everyone knows I love B&T. They're my favorite gun company. But this gun, I think just as it sits, is just not a cool gun. I've never desired to own one for these reasons. Now, some people may think this is the coolest looking thing in the world, and I completely respect that. Maybe they own it. And right now they're turning off this review because, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's trashing that gun. I don't think I'm trashing the gun, but I am trying to explain why I don't like certain features about this, and you are free to disagree. But let's get this thing to the range. As I said, I'm going to be using a single point sling, and this is the one that was provided by B&T for this, and I'm going to do the shooting stance where I'm going to push the gun away from me and try to stabilize it. I had to spend a little bit of time figuring out the best way to attach this sling and of course wrap it around my body to give me the best feel. So hopefully using the sling will help. I can tell you just holding it up like a standard pistol isn't as nice because it's kind of an awkwardly shaped gun. That's of course supposed to be SBR, really supposed to have a stock. So here we go. I'm gonna load up one of these magazines, see how this thing shoots. Who knows? This thing may win me over once I get some rounds down range. So here we go, one magazine, 7 yards, just to see how this thing shoots and see what I discover about it. So let's see how I do. And so after the first magazine, the accuracy does seem to be okay. I have to say this is a very awkward gun to shoot, and the trigger, honestly, is probably the worst thing about it. It is big, heavy, and clunky. When it comes to your non-shooting hand or your support hand, they do have a hand stop up here, but without this vertical foregrip, it's kind of weird and kind of hurts when it comes to this opening and these sharp edges where the vertical foregrip is supposed to attach. So I don't like that at all either. It's just an awkward shooting firearm. It feels weird when you shoot it as a pistol. And I know some people are going to say it really is supposed to be designed to be shot with a stock. Fair enough. Maybe one day I will get to shoot an SBR version of this, but I know many people when they pick one of these up, they're going to buy it in this configuration. And maybe they don't want to register it with the NFA, or they live in a state where they can't because SBRs are illegal. So this is the version of this gun that they're going to shoot and try to enjoy. So far it's functioning just fine. It's just kind of awkward to shoot. All right, well, good accuracy so far, so I'm going to double the distance of this target. I'm going to go for the head on this IDPA silhouette, see how I do, see if this group opens up and if I can continue this accuracy and if I can figure out how to shoot this gun a little bit better. So obviously that group was not as good. It's opened up quite a bit. And this is an issue that I have discovered using this sling method of stabilizing the gun. When you're pushing that gun out, you just can't hold it as steady, and it's moving around and kind of shaking a little bit. Not because my hand is not steady, but because when you're trying to support it with two hands, you're pushing out, it's kind of awkward. It feels weird, and of course your accuracy is going to suffer because of that. Another thing I'm noticing is the mag insertion is kind of weird. If you notice, the bottom of the grip here has these little cutouts. I'm guessing these are designed to help strip the magazine out of there, but there's no real mag well per se, and inserting these magazines is a little bit difficult because it has to go in just perfect. You can't put it in at an angle, and it does catch on those little cutouts if you miss and you're trying to do it fast. So I think the mag well and the bottom of the grip could be redesigned a little bit differently. I don't like that either. All right, well, I really can't bench rest this gun, which is normally the test that I do next, but I'm gonna set out the target at about 20 or 25 yards. I know this is about as far out as I could probably shoot with this thing and still hit the target. Now that I've gotten used to it, I'm gonna take my time with the next magazine, and at this distance, see what type of accuracy I can get, still using the single point sling method, and hopefully being able to stabilize the gun to get all these rounds on target. So let's see how I do. And I know I'm a little bit embarrassed by that group, but I'm telling you, without a stabilizing brace and without a stock and using the sling method, it's not a very accurate way of shooting a firearm. This gun is definitely pretty good for close-up engagements. If it's 10 yards and less, I think you'd be perfectly fine. But if you're going to try to go for targets that are 25, 30, 50 yards away, this is not the gun for you unless you have a stock or something to stabilize it. It's just awkward. So the next test I want to do is run some hollow points through it. One of the issues I've had with B&T in the past, and more specifically my GHM9, which is a Generation 1, originally it didn't feed hollow points. I had to send it back into B&T, and they redid the feed lips for it. It runs hollow points now, and some people have said that some European guns just don't like hollow points because they're not allowed there, or in many of the countries there, they're designed for ball ammunition. I'm pretty sure that B&T would have tested this with hollow points, but I definitely want to run a magazine through this gun just to make sure if you are going to buy this for home defense that you would have no issue with hollow point ammunition. So here we go with some Winchester hollow point just to make sure that it runs and we don't encounter any issues. And obviously the accuracy closer in is not an issue whatsoever. That was at about 7 yards, and it also ran the hollow points just fine. I didn't notice any issues when it came to ejection, extraction, none of that. So the hollow points feed through this gun absolutely fine. All right, so the next test I want to do is the quick magazine change. I want to shoot this gun as fast as I can, get a magazine out of this, reload it, and get the gun back in action as fast as I possibly can. And I honestly think with the heavier trigger, it's going to shoot a little bit slow, and with the magazine insertion issue, it might slow me down a little bit. This is not a gun that I think is really designed for competition shooting. Who knows? Maybe some of you guys will compete with a gun like this, but I think I'm going to run into some issues with it. Even just slowly exchanging the magazines, it's not very fast and it's not very natural. But here we go. I'm going to do my very best and see how fast I can do this. And another issue besides the mag well not being designed very well is the fact that at the range, that mag did not fall out of this gun. If you have the gun turned just a little bit, it doesn't always fall completely out and it moves slow. I know a lot of American competition shooters want to push that button, have that magazine ejected out of there really fast and extracted so you can insert the next magazine. I had to strip it out, and that's just an issue with a gun like this. And I just don't like that. It really did slow me down. So the last test I want to do before I give you guys my final thoughts is the traditional mag dump test. I kind of call this the gun porn. Now, I don't know how fast I can shoot this. Some guns I can shoot really fast, but this trigger honestly is very heavy, sluggish. It has a weird break at the wall. I honestly just don't like it. But who knows? Maybe I can shoot this thing fast. Maybe I can't. Well, we're going to find out. So here we go, a full magazine, dumped as fast as I possibly can, and then I'll give you guys my final thoughts. And that trigger is slow, heavy, very difficult to get a rhythm going, and my finger got tired as I went through the magazine. So my rate per minute definitely slowed down a lot. I was disappointed in that. So the first few rounds were absolutely fine. Then I had those little hiccups in there and I just could not recover. The reset's kind of long, the trigger is heavy. Ugh, I just don't like it. It's really, really mushy. So what are my final thoughts on the B&T TP9? Well, unfortunately, this gun is everything I thought it was going to be and predicted it was going to be. I honestly just don't like it. Trust me, I do want to like it, but it feels cheap. The trigger is not that good. I don't like this muzzle device on the front. There's just so many things about it that I'm like, especially as a pistol. Now, I will fully admit that if this thing was SBR'd, I might be singing a different tune. However, I would still have many aesthetic issues with it and function issues with it, even if I could stabilize it against my shoulder. It might be a little bit better with accuracy at further distances, but I would still have those other issues. I'm honestly a little bit disappointed with this. I really didn't think that I would like it, but I come away from this review liking it even less. And if this is a gun that you're interested in, but you can't SBR it and you don't want to SBR it for whatever reason, whether that be financial or it's you don't want to let the ATF know what you have, or you live in a state where you can't do it, it's an awkward shooting gun if you're going to shoot it in this configuration, whether you're going to hold it like a standard pistol or you're going to use some type of sling method. They're both just awkward. I think it's a cool design. I think it's historically interesting. I understand the philosophy of use of this and probably what it's designed to do. It just doesn't interest me. And now after shooting it, I really just don't want one. I'm just a little bit disappointed. And I hope the people that love B&T can forgive me. I hope the people that work for B&T can forgive me and understand that I still love the company and I still like the products that they produce. This one is just not for me. And if Carl Brugger sees this one, I hope he understands. I tried to explain my reasons the best that I could. It's definitely a quality gun. I had no function or reliability issues with it whatsoever. I think this thing would run like a top for years and years to come and probably outlive all of us. It just doesn't have the right look or the right feel for me. and shooting it as a pistol is just really awkward. So on my star system, how would I rate the B&T TP9? Well, I'm only going to give this thing 2.5 stars out of 5. Mechanically, it works fine. I have no issues with it. I know B&T is going to back this thing up with their customer service if you have any issues, and I'm sure as it sits, it's a quality gun. But I don't enjoy shooting it. It's awkward. I don't like the features of it. I don't like the fact the magazine feeds through the grip. I feel like some aspects of it feel cheap and chintzy. When B&T really ups the game in many other firearms, I feel like they cut corners in this one. I just don't feel like it's that nice of a gun, especially for the price. Now, if you like different colors, it does come, and this one is green. They also have a black and a flat dark earth, and I think there is another color as well, maybe a gray. So if that's something that you care about, you can get it in different colors. But for me, I would always pass on one of these, and I would definitely go for something else in the B&T lineup. They just make great guns, the APC, the GHM, the KH9. But the TP9, yeah, it's just not something that I'm interested in, and after shooting it, even if it had a stock, I don't think I would like it. So only 2.5 stars out of 5. So all those people out there that say I'm a B&T shill, I'm curious what you're going to think of this review. I am always honest, and I try to explain my thoughts thoroughly, so I hope you guys understand, and maybe this review surprised some of you. So I'm interested to see what you guys say in the comment section below. So, as always, thanks for watching.